Hey Steve, how you doing?
Hey Adam, good thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you for joining me on the Talent Inside podcast. Really appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, no problems. Thanks for having me. I've been listening to some of your podcasts to date, and it's actually been really interesting and good insight. So it's great to be on
No,
board, and thanks for having me.
no, that's awesome, mate. That's awesome. And it's yeah, I've been looking at your background, and you've got kind of a real interesting background. I'm really keen to dive into some of the experience that you've got. But for the listeners, mate, do you want to give us a bit of a overview of like how it all started for you and how you've got to where you're at today?
Yeah, of course. If I date back, and apologies for some of those that have actually heard my story in previous podcasts, but dating back from sort of high school, where you're probably in those sort of teenage years where you have to make sort of significant decisions about your career. I sort of use my 13-year-old daughter as an example. She's got to select her electives for next year. It's quite sort of very hard, and you're trying to work out like what do you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, and that's quite a big decision that you need to make. So if I look back at my sort of history, where year 11, you've got to make a decision in terms of what you want to study, where you want to go in uni, and all those sorts of things. All I was doing was really listening to my parents and what they wanted me to do, and it was either you be probably three things, right? As Asian parents, that they want your child to be a doctor, an engineer, or some sort of chemical, sort of scientific sort of space where you're probably going to make a lot of dollars. They can sort of talk about how proud their son or daughter is. Or the other one was actually to be a lawyer. So really,
Okay,
what I did was I studied hard, got the results, and then I chose engineering.
okay,
Dad was over the moon. I chose electrical engineering. First year I didn't really enjoy it, so and then I made a pivot to aerospace engineering. So
okay.
something that you would think, why aeroplanes, Formula One cars, aerodynamics, all that sort of stuff. That was really the stuff that I really enjoyed. So I just went ahead with it. Got an internship in my third year, 2004. That's when I moved to Germany, and got an internship with BMW. So I was working with the
Yeah,
engineers
nice.
on that. So a lot of life sort of lessons, life history. It's not just in a workplace, working with very smart people, but also at the same time, you're learning how to, learning how to cook, clean, pay rent, and things like that. When I was living in a country that I actually don't even speak the language, and
Yeah,
20 years down the track, you sort of think back, well, how did I do it? And
yeah,
those survival skills, and I did it, and that was probably one of those where you sort of learn what you've actually done and what you're actually good at when
yeah,
you've actually experienced that.
yeah. How
And
old were you then, Steve?
I was 21 at that time.
21. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
21. Yeah. So at that
awesome.
time, 21, you think, well, the next part of your career is actually going to be going into the workplace, and you're going to be doing this for the next 30, 40 years. But that
Yeah,
wasn't me. That wasn't me by the time I actually got back. By the time
yeah,
I actually got back, and on the couch, and I was chatting to my dad, and I was actually quite nervous, and I was sweating bullets at that time to tell him that engineering is not going to be for me, and I'm not going to make a career out of it. And he's
yeah.
probably
Well,
thinking, oh, all the investment, all the uni fees, which he was paying some of it, and then I ended up paying the rest of it myself. Not as a penalty or anything like that. I just wanted to do that myself. And in the end, I made that pivot into a business and engineering double degree, which you would have the best of both worlds, really.
yeah, okay.
And that's where I ended up doing a business degree and majoring in human resources, because I felt that I'm pretty good with people. I like talking to people, and I've got this. I feel like I've actually got empathy in terms of what people go through, and that emotional intelligence piece. So I pursued that, and then and whilst I was doing that, sort of the latter years of my uni days, I decided to go full time, and I actually got a job working retail, working at Adidas. Loved my
Yeah, okay.
sports. I coach tennis. I still play footy and things like that. So working in the head office, in that retail space, corporate clients and things like that. And then I sort of got into a HR internship, which I sort of took annual leave for 1 day a week for 12 weeks. So learning the craft around some of the HR operational side of things, more HR consulting, some internal recruitment as well, so recruiting for some of their stores. And that was probably the area that I actually really enjoyed the most, which was the recruitment side.
Okay.
So by default, you would think that you're in that industry or you're in the organisation and a role comes up. And I thought, well, I'm a shoo-in for that role. Your internal application, go through the interview process and things like that. Did I get the job?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. And then I was like, well, what's next? Do I stay and just do what I'm doing, what I'm currently doing on okay money? But I thought I'll do something else. And a friend of mine, he owns a recruitment business. I thought, yeah, what's it like to do external recruitment, agency recruitment? He goes, yeah, it's pretty good, all that sort of stuff. I'll go, well, can I get a job with you? No. I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah. But then his partner, who I'm really good friends with as well, she was working at a different agency, so two agency recruiters, and she got me into an organisation called Greythorn. So I was just doing more as a resource consultant, so more on the candidate management side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
What
placing
kind of
candidates, and
recruitment
I
was it?
think, sorry,
What kind of recruitment was it? What's
IT
IT?
recruitment.
Yeah.
Actually.
Okay.
So I've been in IT recruitment for 15 years now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I just loved just the hustle because it was
Mm.
mainly contracting recruitment. So everything from project management, business analysis, change management, some developers, and then there was just these sort of random left of field ones, which was like needle in a haystack. And I was
Yeah.
able to find those through, there's all these different sourcing sort of platforms and things like. But back then it was just all LinkedIn, right? And
Yeah.
the database.
Yeah. But it's a nice feeling
I
when
enjoyed
when you
that.
find those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a nice feeling when you find
Yeah,
those.
they're great to find.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
It's
great feeling when you find them, but
yeah.
at the same time, it's hard, right?
Mm.
It's not just
Yeah.
put a job ad up and someone's going to
That's
apply
right.
for it, but you got to really find those people. So I think first year was 50 odd placements in that 1 year. I thought to myself, I think I'm right with this. And then 15 years down the track, those candidates some of them I still keep in contact with. Some of them just
Yeah. Nice.
reach out to me out of the blue. And I think that's probably the one thing around that being that differentiation piece is when you've got a candidate that actually thinks about you when they're actually looking for a role or they're looking to hire or just having career advice around, is BA my thing anymore? Or do I want to be a developer and what do I need to do? So I've always had that. And then obviously the sort of the most recent stuff I've been doing is I've moved away from that agency side because I wasn't really enjoying cold calling and numbers and how many phone calls you make, how many CVs you send. But then I went into more consulting, IT professional services. I've worked in two startups and three scale-up businesses now. Sort of gone through that sort of founder journey where you've hired a bunch of people and then what's next. So working for the tech consulting organisation. So my recent ones is at Versant, where by the time I got there there were 320 people. I knew about the brand. A lot of the best cloud engineers were there, and then it was just this massive scale up where they were winning a lot of work, but there was more work than people at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I went into there and without knowing what's going on internally, I thought it was just going to be a well-oiled machine. However, the way things were happening there and the way the business processes and the systems and things like that was in need of some improvement. And we're doing a lot of that around the systems, the processes, and getting interviewers up to speed, getting the right operating model right. And in the result in the end was 2.5 years, and that was during COVID, around that sort of 2020 to 2022 mark, which was everyone was after everyone.
Yeah. Oh, there was. It was crazy.
Every
time, wasn't it?
organisation was after. Yeah, every organisation was after everyone. And then in the end, it was like 320 people when I joined, 560 people by the time I left. So you see that wasn't really the number that we've hired. Obviously,
Mm.
there was a bit of attrition, things like that,
Yeah, of course.
and then I've joined an organisation called Arc Group, which was going through an acquisition. So post acquisition, I was running a team that had 7 TAs, and there was going to be a multiple brands actually sort of rolling up into one. But however, I was sort of looking after the Arc Group side. Great culture, great people,
Mm.
but a lot of hiring. So you're
Yep.
looking at least about 100 requisitions
Yeah.
at each point in time,
Yeah. Well,
and with a
huge.
large agency bill as well. So I think by the time I got there, it was like 5 months in, and really spent $750,000. And then by the end of my tenure there, we hadn't spent a cent. But that was really just getting the basics right, just empowering your team and getting them not just being your sort of classic sort of administrators and doing all the admin work and just sending out contracts because agency recruiters got the right candidate, but getting them to actually doing a lot of the talent pooling, the recruitment marketing, and getting the hiring managers along the journey. So
Yeah, that's the biggest
um,
thing, isn't it?
and
Like you said there with that company where they had 320 headcount, like you automatically assume they've got all their ducks in a row and the processes are all built out. But sometimes it's not the case, and it's
yeah,
not until someone external comes in and actually looks at the overall process and the structure, you
exactly.
realize it needs a little bit of work, you know?
Mm. Yeah, exactly. And I think there's this constant continuous improvement mindset that you need to have. Is that your successes today doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be successful in the future. You really got to future proof it, especially in talent, where you're hiring great people right now. You're attracting great people. However, there's competitors in the market that will probably do things better than what you're doing. And if you're going to be staying stagnant, and we've seen a lot of businesses do that, not just in talent, but in tech and
Mm.
things like that,
Yeah,
that you're just going to be left behind pretty quickly. So it's just, I think what that organisation did was great. They attracted great engineers, but keep the good things, improve on the things that are going to be holding you up. I think
yeah,
so.
yeah,
I think the
100%.
system was key, and just making sure that the executives and the stakeholders are on the same page, and by having a culture of hiring and taking it seriously, because at the end of the day, like the cost of a bad hire is actually quite significant, right? So
That's right.
you think based on an $80,000 hire, you could end up sort of having anything from $80,000 to $400,000 in terms of the cost of a bad hire, and that's through time and effort and opportunity costs and things like that. So I think that's just the importance that when it comes to hiring, is it's not just about the speed. It's not about not doing the basics right, but having everyone do their part
Mm.
to
Yeah,
try to get the best outcome.
yeah, 100%. And when did you realize that sort of talent journey was the route to take? Like, when did you set that up?
Yeah, I set that up 2 years ago now, and I thought when you've actually done this with two startups and 3 scale up organizations, and the challenges that each of those organizations were actually very similar. So I thought the challenges that I had as a head of talent was that you've got budget constraints, you've got time poor, you've got resourcing challenges within your own team, you've got high demand but low supply and things like that. So I think why I went with starting up the Talent Journey was, well, I took a redundancy at one of my previous organisations, so I thought, well, what's next? And B, I want to give this a try because I've worked with so many organisations and to try to solve these problems, and I've successfully done that. Why not do it for multiple businesses and having something that's flexible for founders? I've worked with a lot of founders and and scale up organisations that their challenges are going to be on cost if they don't know what their hiring volumes are going to look like. So having someone that can actually do it on a fractional side of things, which is low cost, less commitment, but also utilizing my experience and working with multiple clients and having the right frameworks and actually introducing the tooling for them to get started was something that I was really passionate about, and I wanted to do it for multiple businesses rather than just jump into another organisation, just do it all over again, and it's a
Yeah.
rinse and repeat, right? So,
Yeah, that's right.
and
No, that
then
was exactly the
yeah,
same for me as well.
yeah,
Similar story, redundancy
mm,
twice in a row, and
yeah,
then kind of realizing,
mm,
actually thinking about what I wanted, and on the back of those, and looking back at the reason I got made redundant. You go through this scale, you pay costs. It's the first one,
mm,
So I
mm,
realised, well, actually, why don't I go into these organisations on a short-term basis, more fractional, these processes, speed or whatever they need, and then move on to the next. And
yeah,
risk it.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I think it's for us. It's good variety that we can actually work with organisations, and we'll learn off them and they'll learn off us pretty
yeah,
quickly, right?
yeah,
And you're going through that. I'm going through that right now as well. Is that not every organisation is the same when it comes to their journey. It's like you look at a founder that I've worked with in the past that he's been working, he's been getting a lot of the sales, and then obviously he's hiring a few mates to actually join the journey, and then it's like what's next? Like where's your next pool of talent coming from? And it's like, well, I don't have an ATS, I don't have a HR system, or how are you tracking your leave? All those basic sort of things, and what are those agreements that you've got in place? Like, this person's getting more money, this person's getting more commission for each sale, or something like that. So it was more like these are some of those experiences that I've learned working with founders, and then applying that with these guys to actually have something that in future you don't actually have to go and fix up the mess that's
mm,
actually been constantly just being created, because it's just a big snowball effect. And I just think that's I've asked for a lot of feedback from founders. Is this something that you would actually go for? You would go for whether you would buy it or not? And some of them, they said it's a good business model. Some of them like, well, I don't see this working. But then I've had sort of situations where I've been able to turn them around as well. So it's
yeah, yeah,
but I think 2 years, the organisation, my company's just evolved, and I've added different services based on what my customers actually provided me in terms of feedback and what they need, and
yeah.
what
That's
my
awesome.
experience can actually be able to support them on. So
Yeah, because I was going to ask that, like, in terms of the overall services that you offer. Because I noticed obviously outplacement is one of those. So what was the sort of thinking behind that? And I can imagine with the changes that
yeah.
have been going on over the last couple of years, it's
Mm.
probably a big a big market. But so how did you get into that? What do you want to? And also as well, for the listeners who aren't familiar with it, how would you describe like how outplacement actually works day to day?
Yeah, definitely. Funny enough, the outplacement is something that I've done in like probably from 10 years ago, actually. So
Okay.
I did
Yeah.
a lot of career coaching and a lot of resume and LinkedIn enhancement and profiling and things like that. And that was just really just from people, just that whole candidate management side. It's like, hey, I need some tweaks on the resume. I've even I've
Mm,
even tweaked my wife's resume, for example,
yep.
and things like that.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I did that as a freelance business back then. So it was called
Okay.
SC CV Services.
Yeah.
Yeah, the name was pretty basic,
Yeah.
and all that, but but that's transformed over time. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, like you've gone through two redundancies. I've gone through one, and I was one of those where I thought I'd never get made redundant,
Yeah.
sort of thing. But then by the time you do, like there's this mindset. It's like, hey, am I the problem? Like
Mm,
what resulted in being made redundant? And then when I've spoken to organisations that have gone through mass redundancies, and obviously got talking to a lot of friends in our industry that have gone through that impact as well, like that, they're the questions that sort of they ask is what's next. And some actually have success stories where they've gone through a redundancy, so they've gone through that whole process. And a process within a redundancy where you work in the HR sense, it's like there's the consultation period, and it's a long cycle where you go from the consultation period to a redeployment, and then if you've exhausted all those options, then the final conversation's like, well, we've done a calculation of your tenure of service, and this is your notice period, and this is your payout. We'll put on a nice lunch just to celebrate your wins, or there's an email that said that Steve Chance walked out the door and anything, speak to me, sort of thing. Those sorts of things, right? Some organisations do it great, some don't. So to cut a long story short, how to the outplacement is that outplacement is an external service for businesses that support someone that's been affected by redundancy, just to either have some career counselling and advice. Some would actually require a CV or a LinkedIn enhancement, because and then that would hopefully give you the tooling and the confidence to be able to go out and look for your next role.
Do you help with that as well, like in terms of looking for that next role?
Yeah, so I've so with my outplacement though, so I've sort of designed it in a way where let's get everything in, let's get our house in order from understanding what is your career today. Do you want to continue on in that path? If not, what are your aspirations? What is it that you're really good at doing? And then we'll be able to work on what is your CV to date. So show me what you've done, and then we're going to start tweaking it based on some of those experiences that you've got, which is transferable within that field.
Yeah, nice.
And then getting a LinkedIn, right? So some people have a lot of information LinkedIn. Some of them don't, or some of them don't even have a LinkedIn at all. So we'll start getting that. And then I think when it comes to talent and us, right, we've got these, we know the ins and outs in terms of the screening process and how to, and some organisations that you've got to apply for a job, there's got some intuitive ATSs out there that would actually just do a bit of a scrape of keywords and things like that as well. So we try to sort of tailor your CV to be able to get to that point where you're going to get a phone call or a first round. And then once when you get there, then we're going to be doing some interview training and some coaching, and I've been creating some collateral and content on some of the do's and don'ts of interviewing, and I still go through that around preparing for an interview. Don't rock up 20 minutes before the interview. It's just going to make people awkward, right? Or you're going to be doing a phone. You're going to be doing a phone interview. Don't. And this is a funny story. When I did a phone interview for a sales guy, this guy is just literally, as I'm talking to him, he's microwaving his lunch. Right? So it's just like just this awkward silence that you hear the door close, and all of a sudden he's pressing the buttons. 1 minute, one minute and a half, or whatever it is. It's like, well,
ding,
ding, all that sort of stuff. I'm like, well, now your lunch is done. What do you want to push this interview back? Well, when you finish lunch, you want to call me back? Those sorts of things, right? It's just like things that you take for granted. You take for granted. But you assume that people would not do that, but it's just an awareness piece where it's like, well, you're going to be professional on the phone. How are you going to get yourself to the next stage, right?
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. Yeah. And then, and I think the good thing about my outplacement services, which I've only been doing it since this year, right, is that I've had a 75% success rate on each one of my clients, going from that career coaching all the way through to an interview, to an offer. So, and then hopefully I've got one last client that would be successful, and then I'll be on 100% this year. So
that's awesome.
But that they're the success stories that I love, is that going from that sort of I don't know what to do through to actually landing a job. And everything in between.
It's an emotional roller coaster, isn't it? Like, if you think for you to actually be able to take them from that time where it is kind of like you've got mixed emotions, you're up and down, you're so angry, you're frustrated, you're white mess, and then to actually take them from that moment through to actually place them in a new role, like even after that, like, they're always going to come back to you because like, they trust you. You took them through that journey. You know, it's a real positive experience you take them on.
Exactly. And it's not just on the individual as well, but it's also on the organization that subscribes to this service.
Yeah,
So
that's a good
what
point.
it is, it's that you have an organization that's obviously had to make the tough decision, and you're talking about some mass redundancies, like,
Mm,
say 30 to 100 at a time, like for large corporates. So it's like you're going through the motions, and as a HR leader, it's quite it's quite stressful that you have to go through, and every situation is different
yeah,
as well.
mm,
So the last thing you want to do is having legal battles about genuine redundancy, because some of them will challenge whether their role should really be impacted, or an organisation's made someone redundant, but then next thing you know, that the HR and the talent team, they're not talking to each other, and then a role's been advertised on Seek or LinkedIn or whatever it is. Like, well, hang on,
yeah, yeah,
my role's been made redundant. However, this role's come about externally. Like, we've gone through this process. Isn't this a straight redeployment opportunity? So what I'm trying to say here in terms of the for the employer is that for them to be able to provide that service ongoing up
mm,
until a certain point
yeah,
really is really a display of them obviously trying their best to actually leave, have an individual leave on good terms and things
yeah,
like, and an
and
investment which is paid by the company, not paid by the individual as well.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and that's
that's
something
awesome.
that there was something that I didn't receive, but it's also a voluntary opt-in, opt-out as
Yeah,
well. So you
yeah,
don't necessarily have to use it, but it's
yeah,
there on offer. So,
yeah. Okay, yeah.
mm,
And do you help the business navigate through that as well? Like, say for instance, they know that they're going in the next couple of months as an opportunity that they may be going through some kind of redundancy. Would you navigate them through that as well on the best practices? Because there's obviously some
yeah,
companies do it really well, others
mm.
not so well. So is that
Yeah,
something that you
so
offer as well?
yeah, I offer that as well, and that's probably part of the talent journeys,
Mm,
sort of people operations as a service piece,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is helping organisations navigate through that. Because, and I had this conversation with a founder 2 days ago about that. Is that he always thought that I was just the talent person, but I said I've gone through probably about 20 of these around sort of redundancies and things like that. So it's navigating through that, because a lot of organisations, like founders, for example, don't understand what the legislation is and what is the whole process when it comes
mm,
to that consultation through to final outcome. So it's really just guiding them through that process and making sure that we're ticking all the boxes and ensuring that you don't do anything silly that
yeah,
results in a fair work case, or something like that, or you get a legal letter in your mailbox and you have to
yeah,
respond to that.
yeah,
So it's going through that, but also at the same time is doing it in the right way and doing it, um, to ensure that, the individual, because we're talking about humans at the end of the day,
that's right.
are being
Yeah,
felt supported, plus this
yeah,
outplacement service that we can offer. You end up getting better levers at the end of the day. And if someone's found success in
yeah,
terms of finding another role, then
mm,
they're not going to be in 2 to 3 months' time thinking about, well, I'm going to take them to court.
mm,
So,
yeah.
mm,
Do you think this like founders actually fall back on the redundancy as a like a performance, like as a performance, like getting people out without the kind of because I find in a lot of businesses that there's yeah, way in the past, but in terms of like actually not having a performance review process or like and then actually using a redundancy as part of like a
mm,
right, well, let's get rid of the deadwood. Do you think
yeah,
that still happens these days? Like, because I know it was back when I was like early days. I knew that was a real thing that
yeah.
was happening. Do you think that's
Mm.
still happening now with founders?
I still think it does,
Yeah.
actually. And it's just that, like I said, it's just that education piece, is that we don't
Mm,
use a redundancy as a mechanism for
no.
performance. performance management, because that's a completely different thing, like. And you've got success when it comes to performance, is that you can put someone on a performance improvement plan, and the result comes out as though they've ticked all the boxes, they've done everything they can, they've tried to make it work, the organisation's tried to make it work, and we continue on, right? There's a reason why this person was hired from day dot.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? So what's changed between day one and year two? Is it a people leader? Yeah, are we empowering our people leaders? Yeah, with training development and making sure that people, their team members, are front of mind when it comes to sport.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? A morale thing? Like, is it external factors that something's happening in their personal life that's affecting their performance? To add in a redundancy, that's around. You're talking about a similar time frame when it comes to that.
Yeah.
However, you can actually turn that around, because at the end of the day, you're still going to have someone in that seat, right? If you use that if you're using that performance lever.
Yeah.
So
no, I completely agree.
Why not give that person the opportunity? So
exactly
to
right. Yeah. And you're right in exactly what you're saying there. Is that, like, people don't just go bad overnight. Like, they if they were performing at one point, like, what's changed? And it's got to be. And I don't think businesses take accountability enough in order to say, look, okay, well, is it anything that's happening internally? Is it a leader? Are they, like you said, going through things outside of work? I just don't think that's taken into account enough these days. And it's kind of like, right, let's put them on a performance review. But then also, I don't think the performance review is set up to actually get them to turn it around either. I think once they're on the performance review, it's kind of like, right, okay, that person's going to be replaced by someone else. It's not the kind of, it should be an actual way of getting that person back up to perform, to be performing.
Exactly. And it's still happening today, where performance review is just going through the motions as well.
Yep.
However, there's instances that, and this has gone through my experience, where I've actually, when it comes to analysing like what's actually happened around the performance, it's become quite apparent that it's actually not the employee that's the problem. It's actually the people leader or the manager that needs some improvement, right? It's just it's one of those.
People don't leave businesses; they leave leaders. No,
they leave
saying, isn't
exactly.
It?
Exactly. But I think the other thing, and that sort of comes to mind, is that feedback, right? People love hearing the good feedback, like the praise, the shout outs, and things like there's. When I was at Versant, there was a lot of shout outs around, sort of, and you put it on Slack, and then everyone puts an emoji, someone celebrates that. But then there's the not so good feedback. And I've received sort of constructive or bad feedback and things like that. And you can actually look at it from two different angles. It's like, okay, someone thinks that I'm crap at my job, or that I'm not great at my job, or whatever it is. And then I'm just going to sit in a corner and just sulk about it and not do anything about it. But on the other side is that feedback, and hearing it from someone that you actually respect and trust and you aspire to, or whatever it might be, that's powerful. And then if you're taking that feedback and then applying sort of improvement, and there's a lot of things that you can do now with a lot of learning tools and a lot of listening to podcasts and listening to inspirational speakers and all that sort of stuff. But it's what you do with the feedback for you to be able to improve. And a lot of times when it comes to that performance improvement plan, or that process, is that this is the first time that they're hearing it. That's where the sticky point is. So if you're providing that feedback and there's no improvement, right? So then your performance improvement plan will go nuts. The disappointing part is using the redundancy as your easy way out.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that from a performance perspective, is that, like, like you say, that there needs to be those regular kind of catch-ups, one-to-ones, where it's ingrained in the culture that for feedback to be accepted at all levels as well. It should not just have like that direct report, but I think from like having someone in the business that's even giving feedback to the founder of a certain situation that's happening, or it needs to be kind of an agreement across the business as part of like the values, the culture, that they've got that open two-way feedback. I think a lot of businesses, and the good ones I've worked in, have had that and offer that, and it's taken on board. And that's the only way, for me, that's the only way that you learn and grow, as by individuals, but also as a business as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's missing in a lot of businesses.
And I think it's there's a lot of sort of programs or training that you can actually support your leaders, right? So, and I think when it comes to the world of tech, and that's where I've been involved in, is that you've got a lot of people that have sort of come up the ranks with they've been an engineer, and then they become a senior engineer, lead engineer, and then by default they were like, well, yeah, your next part would be people leadership. Here, let's just roll up 3 engineers underneath you, and it's like, well, I prefer just to cut code and do my thing, right? Like I'm not getting paid anymore. What do I do with this person? Like, have I been given any tools around how to actually lead people? Like, and then later on, you just think, all right, well, how you're asking those three employees, like, how's your people leader, through a survey? It was like, well, I haven't even had a one-on-one with this guy.
This is the bad thing, isn't it? So there's different angles to that as well, because what they're expected to do is actually hire for their team, and they haven't had any training. They're expected to lead the team, and they haven't had any training. And it's like, and then it becomes another later down the line. It's like, oh, they're not performing. It's like, hang on a second, how can you expect them to perform?
Yeah.
They're really good at IC, and they're really good at what they do day to day. That doesn't make you a good leader, and you don't automatically pick up those skills to be a leader. So I think, again, that's another part that's kind of missing in organisations, is that kind of empowering and also training people to actually do the job that they're expecting them to do. Because if you were to hire, it's great that businesses hire internally and have people, sorry, not hire internally, give them the experience to actually get promoted internally. But I think, like, because if you were going to go externally, you'd always look for someone who's got the experience to lead a team. So it's kind of like, then if you're doing it internally, then you need to make sure that you're training them correctly as well. And it's, let's say, there's a huge gap there at the moment, I think, especially on the engineering front. The engineering seems to be
it's a massive gap. And I think even just like, we were just talking about COVID before we even started the podcast, right? It's well, it's like when I was at Versant, it was like all the training, when I reviewed all the offers, like when you talk about the perks in terms of the to join us, you're going to be getting a cloud guru training and all of that stuff. So it was all technically focused, right? So technically focused in terms of how do you actually be able to do the job for your client and things like that. However, what's their pathway when it comes to becoming a people leader? Well, do you want to be a people leader? Or you're being given that role by default, and we just touched on it. Like, do you have the tools? And then, in the end, and there's a lot of leadership training courses, and there's one that I went through as well. It's like just doing the basics around leading people, and you've got great engineers that are probably great at what they do, but they're probably not great leaders.
No.
So you can either train them or you put them in their comfort zone and not have them lead. So you've got to let the individual have a choice rather than shoving them into a role that they're not set up for success.
Yeah.
Right.
No, 100%. And some people don't even realise they might want that role, but then they realise when they're in it, it's actually probably not the route they want to take, and it's kind of having that feedback loop to know that, okay, well, that's not their where they want to go. We'll put them back into kind of more of an RC type role, more senior, because typically there's 2 different avenues there. You get more of a more technical, like going to like principal engineer and that type of thing, or you go down the route like team lead, engineer manager, senior engineer manager, that type of thing. So typically you'd have that fork, but it's okay to realise in a leader role that it's probably not for you as well, and actually being able to feed that back and go,
exactly.
It's not. Yeah, that's right.
And I think in organisations like the ones that we've worked in as well, is that it's okay to put your hand up. It's because it's pretty easy to pivot or make changes in an operating model.
Yeah.
But for some of the larger organisations as well, like there's certain processes that you need to meet, and you're also judged, you're also measured on that performance as well. However, if my advice is if you don't want to lead, that's okay. You can lead by example through your work ethic and things like that. Like you don't need to have the title to be able to be the leader as well.
No, that's
Like,
right.
and also you don't need to be the best technically or the best recruiter to be able to lead a team, right?
Yeah.
So, I'll put my hand up as well. Like I've led teams of TAs and large teams and things like that, and I wouldn't even say that I'm the best TA in the team. Like I just want to be I might be the dumbest guy in the room. And I want to make sure that I'm navigating their challenges or trying to remove roadblocks in order for them to be successful, and making sure that each and every one of my team members is actually developing and they're learning, and also ensuring that they've actually got a career path in terms of what they want to do. Like at the end of the day, like it's if I'm a head of talent, and I've got seven team members, and all seven of them want my job. Well, I'd be the happiest guy because I've got seven people in the team that have aspirations to get up to the next stage. So it's like, what can I do to get you ready for
And it
that?
doesn't have to be in the same business either, does it? Because you
No.
actually get someone up to that point and go, right, okay, it's probably the right time for you now to take that head of role or lead role in another company that's going to give you that growth opportunity that's not here, and that's okay. Yeah,
And that's okay as well. Yeah. So it's and I've experienced that before, and it goes back to my previous examples. Like assuming by default you're going to get the job, but you don't. So, well, what's the next option? Is to go and broaden your horizons elsewhere. So
yeah.
Mm.
So just looking back on the outplacement side of the model that you're offering, mate, how do you see the future of that? Like, how do you see it evolving over in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, because I'd imagine it's like, especially now with the uncertainty that's going on in a lot of organisations, I think that's going to probably you're going to have even more so with obviously the introduction of AI. And I had a call the other day. I took a reference, and they reduced their headcount by 40%. A large design company, purely on the basis of introducing it. So, where do you see it going? Where's the future of investment?
I think it's going to increase a lot more, as you mentioned, AI. That's reducing a lot of the manual work. However, what we're looking at right now is that there's an influx, which is great, but I'm looking at there's some really larger organisations that sort of do it in volume, and what I'm seeing is that outplacement, what it needs right now is that it's a bit more of a personalised service, and it's a tailored service rather than a cookie cutter approach as well. So when it's not about here's a template and go and fill it out, or otherwise someone can just go and put their CV in AI and they'll be able to change it all up, right? It's just having a program where you're dealing with people, individuals, you're not dealing with robots, you're not dealing with AI, or whatever it is, just making sure that it's personal, it's personalised service. You're there with them every step of the way, regardless of volume, and I don't see it changing in terms of the service.
Yeah.
But what I do see changing is how you actually provide the service.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that working with organisations and educating them on the importance of it. It's not a tick the box. It's something that's available as well. But it's also, there is no time limit, I don't think, to this as well. Like, people get made redundant and they've been in that organisation for 30 years. So the last thing they want to do is, the moment they're out the door, that they've got to join the program. Some people might want to take a year off or something like that. So in terms of my service, I leave it open. I'm ready when the person's ready. And I've had one where I thought she was never going to use the service based on my first interaction. 6 months later, it was like, hey, let's I'm ready for this now. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
when you're ready, I'm ready, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
not
that's
that
awesome.
I'm sorry it's expired and bad luck, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Because, like I
that's
said,
awesome.
we're talking about the individual, so,
Yeah.
and they need
And
help.
that's and that can't be replaced with AI, can it? That personal touch is always going to be needed, is for
Yeah.
that every step of the way. Like that, AI is not going to replace that. But
No.
on that though, like what AI tools are you using at the moment? What sort of technology is helping you sort of day to day with the business?
Well, ChatGPT's a big friend of mine at the moment. So I
Yeah.
think when it comes to 2 years, and I'm not great at the marketing stuff, some of the content stuff, like the website was only just done about 6 months ago, right? I think a lot of the efficiencies, and I'm doing a lot of change management project work as well. That's part of my service, which is just to confuse you a bit more. Is that a lot of the efficiencies around just just building out content around training materials, communications tools and stuff like that. I'm using AI probably more in terms of a validation piece or just changing the tone of voice in terms of some of the written communications and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, I'm still very old school in very many ways in terms of like all my LinkedIn posts, I prefer to just whatever I think at that time, I'll just say it. And then I'll look back at it and thinking, oh, there's a typo here, there's a typo there, or I don't like the way this has been written, and then I'll go and edit it later on, even a friend of mine said that, oh, there's a typo already in your thing. I'm like, well, that's the head of marketing's fault. Who's that head of marketing? Well, that's me. All that sort of stuff. Right? And then now, because I've now sort of invested in some of my tooling within within my business as well. Like I'm using Copilot quite a bit as well at the moment. Or
Yeah.
because it comes with a package, so why not
Yeah.
use it? So there's different sort of different AI tools that will spit out different things as well. So I like to sort of just do a bit of a test in here and there and all that sort of stuff. And then I just think there's so many different AI tools out there that I just can't keep up. And I think that my kids actually know more than I do. And that's the scary part. And I'm just thinking, what are my kids going to be doing in the future when it comes to study, work, and things like that? And I think AI is going to replace a lot of that. But AI is not going to replace me in terms of that voice in them by saying that no shortcuts and don't be lazy. And but use it in the right, but use it sensibly, but also learn it to your advantage.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. There's a lot of tools out there. I've kind of picked up on some of the free trials, and it's just been a bit clunky. I still think there's a long way to go in some of the areas. But it'd be interesting. Like I said, that the first conversation I had this week, where I was getting a reference, and the reason for the person leaving was due to redundancy because of AI. It was a bit of a shock for me because that's the first time I've gone, 40% headcount reduction. That's huge.
Well,
it's going to be interesting to where the market is actually going.
Yeah, what I'm seeing at the moment is that the AI piece is very similar to the contact center piece. Like we're talking about 10 years ago, it's like, well, we're going to outsource the contact center and then we bring it back in house and then we outsource it again and all that. So when you're talking about the redundancy piece because of AI, like, you still need humans when it comes to our industry around the hiring piece and how's AI going to replace that? AI will be able to replace certain aspects, but when you're talking about the candidate experience, the employee experience, and stuff like that, humans want to talk to humans. Humans don't want to talk to bots. So,
exactly right. Well, I've really enjoyed this today, Stephen. Thanks for the chat. But before I let you go, mate, where can people reach out to you if they've got any questions around sort of redundancy, outplacement, or anything that you spoke about today? What's the best place that people can get you?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. It's good to be part of this as well. So thanks for having me. They can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. I post a lot. People know me from there and things like within the industry. But if you don't, then look me up, Steve Chan, and also I've got a website as well. So www.talentjrny, talentjrny.com.au, or I'm sure that I've got I do post quite a bit. You'll be able to find me on those two channels, and yeah, I'm happy to obviously take a phone call and have a chat.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I'm pretty certain we haven't even touched the surface in terms of some of the topics that we can potentially cover. So we'd love to get you back on in the future as well, mate.
Yeah, definitely. No, I've really enjoyed it, so happy to join again. Yeah,
awesome, mate. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, mate.
All right. See ya.